Welcome back to another session of Understanding Human Anatomy. In this session we will begin a discussion of the hand. Let's start by looking at a photograph of a hand. One thing about the hand is that there is only one compartment. So all the muscles will be in one compartment, and that's essentially on the palmar side. There are tendons we're going to see running on the dorsal side of the hand, but all the muscles will be on the palmar side. Two general areas that I want you to take note of. One is this fleshy area just proximal to the thumb, right down in here. This is the thenar eminence. And the thenar eminence has a number of muscles. There are also nerves and vessels here, but it's defined by the fleshy muscles. It's an area that's quite noticeable on the hand. And there are three muscles that we find in the thenar eminence. And those three muscles are abductor pollicis, brevis, abductor pollicis brevis, opponens pollicis, and flexor pollicis brevis. And it should be obvious from the naming of these muscles and the association of the thenar eminence with the thumb that the anatomical term for the thumb is the pollex. So pollicis refers to thumb. So these muscles are abductor of the thumb, the short one, the flexor of the thumb, also the short one, and then opponens pollicis. Opponens is a muscle that causes the action of opposition. And we only find opposition in the hand. And opposition is when you move the thumb to touch the little finger, the digiti minimi. It's a combination of adduction and flexion at the same time. So these three muscles make up the muscles of the thenar eminence. And I want you to bear that in mind, because when we talk about the innervation of the upper extremity, the muscles of the thenar eminence will be one of our exceptions to the rules for motor innervation to the muscles of the hand. On the medial side, the exact opposite side of the hand, near associated with the little finger, or digiti minimi, is the hypothenar eminence. And the hypothenar eminence, I'll draw a line to it here, is the fleshy part on the medial side of the hand. And it also is made up of three muscles, very similar to what we have in the thenar eminence. And the muscles are similar in name as well. We have the abductor digiti minimi, we have the opponent's digiti minimi, and we have flexor digiti minimi brevis. So these three muscles make up the hypothenar eminence. The remaining muscles in the hand, we have an adductor of the thumb, an adductor pollicis, and then we have lumbricals, palmar interossei, and dorsal interossei. And we have the tendons coming from the long flexors that originate in the forearm and then pass to the phalanges in the digits. So before we take a look at the lumbricals and the interossei and these long tendons and how they interact, I want to take a minute to talk about a muscle action down in the hand, which is abduction and adduction. And what happens is we have to change the reference point for ab and adduction from what we use in the rest of the body. When we're talking about abduction and adduction of the fingers, we have a different reference point. And I'm drawing a line through the reference point right now. The reference point is the third digit or middle digit. This is the reference point for measuring ab and adduction. The reference point for ab and adduction is the middle finger. So when the fingers are closed together, they are adducted. And we can see that in this view. So, in the photo on the left side of the slide, we see a hand with the fingers adducted. And then if we look on the right side, we see a photo where the fingers are abducted. So ab and adduction, when it comes to the digits, the reference point is the third digit or middle digit. Now, in the next slide, I want to look at the palmar side of the hand and take a look at the muscles and tendons running through this area. Now, with this slide, I've done a very crude diagram of the skeleton of the hand and the distal carpal. So the distal row of carpals are right here: hamate, capitate, trapezoid, and trapezium. Then we have the metacarpal bones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the phalanges, a proximal and distal phalange for the first digit, the thumb, a proximal, middle, and distal phalange for the other 4 digits. Now I want to start by drawing in the tendon for Flexor Digitorum profundus. And I've got a green color for this tendon. And it runs down here like this. It runs right along the phalanges. Flexor Digitorum profundus, remember, inserts on the distal phalanx, the distal phalange. We'll draw this one down here, the 4th digit. And finally for the 5th digit. Flexor Digitorum profundus tendon. And what I'm going to do is what I've done on other slides. I'm going to write the name of the structure in the same color as I've used to draw it. So the Flexor Digitorum profundus tendon is in green. Then the next tendon I want to draw in is the Flexor Digitorum superficialis. And it lies just superficial to the Flexor Digitorum profundus, and it inserts on the middle phalanx. But it does so, the tendon runs up just superficial of Flexor Digitorum profundus, but when it gets near the middle phalanx, the tendon splits and runs around each side of the Flexor Digitorum profundus tendon and inserts onto the middle phalanx. So let me do that. For the 3rd digit. then the fourth digit. Splitting to insert on the middle phalange, and finally the fifth digit or little finger. Like so. And again, it splits to insert on the middle phalange on either side of the flexor digitorum profundus tendon. So this is the flexor digitorum superficialis tendon. Remember that the muscle, the fleshy part of the muscle for each of these tendons, is in the anterior compartment of the forearm. Now, the flexor digitorum superficialis tendon certainly serves as its basic function, a tendon, but since it lies superficial to the flexor digitorum profundus tendon and then splits to surround the flexor digitorum profundus as it attaches to the middle phalanx, the flexor digitorum superficialis tendon also functions as a retinaculum for the flexor digitorum profundus, at least the distal part of the flexor digitorum profundus. So here we have a tendon functioning as both a tendon and as a retinaculum for one of the other tendons, one of the other muscles. This concludes our discussion of the long flexor tendons. In the next video, we'll talk about some of the muscles that originate and insert within the hand. Thank you for your attention.